we need to show our sense of courage, which people are. They're marching, they're out there, they're showing up to town halls. And I have no doubt that that will prevail, that will prevail over the forces of division and darkness.
Welcome to the Practivist Pod, the practice of activism made practical.
After a tragic week of news, we talk about devastating floods in Texas and in New Mexico, why the so-called Alligator Alcatraz needs a new name, and how Republicans want to make Medicaid recipients work in the fields.
And then I have a conversation about how we reach voters in red and purple states with California Congressman Ro Khanna.
I'm Jessica Craven.
I'm Steve Pearson.
Hold on. Stay strong. It won't be long. Yeah, yeah. We will build a better world.
And what a fucking week, Steve.
It's been tragic and scary and infuriating, and all the things. And so I'm grateful for you. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Jason Berlin's interview from last week. He talks about, for those of you who didn't hear it, please go back and listen to it because he's great. He talks about his own mental health in this work, and part of it is being around this community of like what he calls a hero-rich environment. And I feel that way about you, Jess. I feel really fortunate that I get to check in with you every week because, you know, the news can be bleak and scary, and it's always inspiring to be in the fight with somebody like you. So thanks for being here.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. It is a hero-rich environment. I mean, it's one of the things that it is very important to focus on is all of the amazing people, standing up, getting out, doing what they can in an environment that is very, very scary and that is very conducive to, I'm just going to, check out for the next 3 years, 4 years, and just not pay attention. And I think we all know lots of people who are doing that, who are just like, I can't deal. So thank you. You are also a hero. I appreciate everyone who's listening to this podcast. I mean, These are the people who have chosen to be engaged. It's a big deal. So
yeah. And
thank you for that.
Thank you. And speaking of our listeners, thank you so much. I always forget to mention that we're on Substack. So if you haven't found us there and you can support us on Substack, we really appreciate it. You get the ad-free version. And also want to advertise our call-in number because we love when we hear from you and hear what you're up to. That number is 818-824-4286.
That's right.
So let's hear your heroic stories or hear what inspires you. But, top of the show right now, we really want to acknowledge this horrible tragedy in Texas, unimaginable tragedy, really. And as we're recording this, just recently, more floods in New Mexico too. I can't even wrap my head around it. It's just the worst nightmare. And certainly our hearts are going out to all the families and everyone who's been affected by that.
So yeah, it is a parent's worst nightmare. And the weird thing for me was I was dropping my kid off at camp, actually in Maine on Saturday. So flying across country. So I didn't even really hear about this until I dropped off my child, suddenly seeing this news and just imagining, I mean, it's a place we drop our kids to be happy and be safe. And it's so devastating. It's so devastating on so many fronts. I mean, I'm not saying anything that everyone doesn't know, but it's devastating because of just the human tragedy. It's devastating because we all see climate change happening, like it's happening, and it's getting really bad. And then it's devastating because we have a government in place who won't even acknowledge that that played any part in this, and who has in fact defunded the agencies that are supposed to be doing things like warning people in a situation like this. And you know, I have a close friend who's a geologist and a climate scientist, and she was like, she knew exactly the positions that were necessary in a situation like this in the Texas offices, the local National Weather Service offices. And she was like, they weren't there. A hydrologist, I don't even know what that is, but she was like, you need those people to interface with local authorities, and they were not there. And so would it have stopped the flood? No. Would it have saved lives? We don't know. But we certainly know that like warnings didn't happen that should have, and that people who help with that were not there. And so it's devastating on all these different fronts. And then for me as well to know that it's immediately going to be turned into a partisan battle.
Right. Yeah.
Like a he said, she said of partisanship, instead of just like, shit, what do we do to prevent this next time for all of our children? It so shouldn't be about partisanship in a moment like this. And it to me, really heartbreaking as a longtime climate activist that climate has become a partisan issue, because it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's so frustrating in a time like this. Like, I mean this sincerely. We shouldn't be politicizing it. Right. You know, like when a terrible tragedy happens, we shouldn't be pointing fingers in this moment and saying, well, this is what happened and it's your fault and all that. We should be able to take a beat and collectively grieve and support each other and acknowledge, you know, the awesome power of nature and what's happening with our climate, and then together work on steps to fix it, but or mitigate it, I should say. But the fact is, like some of these people who were there to help with early warning in Texas were not there because of the DOJ cuts. And in some cases, there was one person who would have been instrumental in helping at least get some more advanced early warning for this. It happened really fast. So to your point, like, you know, we don't know if that would have made the difference or not because this flood happened so quickly. But there was somebody who was in a position to help with the early warning who took the fork in the road early buyout and left the administration, and that position was empty. So and there's recent reporting that Trump has replaced some members with more climate deniers on these boards, and we're just heading in the obvious wrong direction. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. Everyone can see it. And 10, 20 years ago, maybe you would theorize or kind of talk about it, but now we're seeing devastating floods, huge hurricanes, massive wildfires, it's all around us. I can't understand how this can be politicized, or how anyone can deny what's happening and not work together to fix it. So it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And the sad answer is it's oil and gas money. I mean, it's really sad. It's Ted Cruz, the guy who cut funding from the big, bastard bill, cut $150 billion for weather prediction funding. And then because this guy takes more money from the oil and gas industry than almost anyone else in Congress, and then goes away to Greece, and then comes back when after the tragedy struck, by the way. It did not come back right away, but eventually came back, and then has the gall to say, we need to figure out something so that there's a better warning system next time. Dude, you just cut the funding. You just cut it. Yeah. And then we should not be, partisan finger wagging at a moment like this is inappropriate. And yet, people just reelected him. So, for whatever reason, this is still something that a lot of people feel is what they want in a lawmaker. I don't understand it, but I don't understand a lot these days. So there you go.
I don't want to understand Ted Cruz. He is absolutely the worst. Garbage person is a generous term for him. He is he has a knack for going on vacay when really terrible things are happening in his state. So, and if anyone should want weather prevention to, to be funded in a state or weather prediction to be funded in a state, it should be him, because they've had their hands full. Not to mention reporting this morning that the measles epidemic has reached a high there in Texas and the surrounding area too. So.
And yet, it's very important that we not diss the entire state of Texas. Like we saw a lot of people, well, not a lot. We saw some on social media saying, well, this is what you voted for. And it's really important to remember how, shout out to our Texas listeners. There's a lot of Democratic voters in Texas.
Yeah.
A lot. So, not everybody voted for this. Unfortunately, Texas is heavily gerrymandered. It's got a huge voter turnout problem.
Yeah.
And then there's all these other things, but like a lot of people in Texas did not vote for this and are still suffering the consequences. No one deserves this. I don't care if you're the biggest Trump supporter in the world. You don't deserve what happened there this weekend. That is so important to emphasize. And yet, yeah, you do sort of feel like, can we acknowledge that and also say, y'all got to start voting differently. You have to, if we're gonna survive. This is survival we're talking about.
I mean, that's right. And I want to say two things about that really quickly, and then we should move on. But one is the organizing with Democrats in Texas is fantastic. And we keep building that scaffolding. We get closer and closer to flipping some of these seats every single cycle. And, the organizers are doing great work there. And Texas is actually turning purple. And we have opportunities there when we keep working. So we can't cede any battlegrounds there. Second is just in terms, in my opinion, how we respond to all of these things with, well, you voted for this. This is what you deserve kind of dialogue. Yeah. I'm not here for that. For any of our listeners, for anyone that posts that on there, like, you do you, but that is not how we're going to even come close to starting to bridge some of these divides. These are mostly people who, like, if you're a cult member, then you're subsumed with that cult. If you had a family member who was in a cult, you'd want to get them out. You'd want to help them. You'd want to educate them. And when they're voting against their interests, they're not doing it out of spite. They're doing it because they think that they are voting for their interest, because they're struggling and they think that that's the way out. So, when anything happens, or their prices go up, or they're struggling, or they're getting, abducted, rounded, and sent out of the country, or whatever horrible things happening, I just want to encourage grace for those people. We need to open our arms and let them know that we care about all people. As Democrats, we're compassionate and we're working for everybody.
Yes. I agree. There are some of them I find it hard to offer that grace to, but for the most part, yes. I mean, you sound a little more saint-like than I am, but yes, in general, I wholly agree. I mean, we will move on after this, but I saw a video, some news channel covered a woman in David Valdeo's district, a Latina older woman who had a child with disabilities. She has diabetes. She's very upset about losing Medicaid. So they go this long story about how heartbroken she is, how devastated she feels by Trump, totally betrayed. So this is like a 5 or 6 minute long thing. Finally, at the end, they're like, well, if the election were held today, who would you vote for this time? And there's this long pause and you think, oh, she's going to say Kamala Harris. And she says, neither of them. And I was just like, oh my God.
Okay, but that's a start. That's a win.
It's a start.
We didn't gain that vote, but they lost a vote. So
you're so good. You're very good, because I was just like, ah! But you're right. I mean, theoretically, they lost the vote. It is wild, though. It's wild. But yeah, we have a lot of work to do. But you're right. Compassion at the center. Always.
Let me say, I have no quarter for racism, for hatred, and all that. So I'm not, if you're spewing that, then I don't have compassion for you. There's no room for that. Right. But I just don't think it serves us very well to be dunking on people who are struggling. I'll put it that way.
No, definitely not during moments of tragedy. There's just no place for it. I mean, tragedy, if you're like, when kids are involved, no fucking way. Like, you don't wish that on your worst enemy. That's right. Yeah. I mean, we all know this, but yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so moving on, things that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and we talked about this escalation in these ICE raids a bit last week, and also the funding increase in this budget bill, which is, seeing how things have escalated here in Los Angeles and thinking about this flood of money and resources going to this is frankly really terrifying. And one thing that I wanted to highlight this week for people and how we talk about this is really important. Our friend Anat Shinkurasario, who, we should have her back on this show again. She did How We Win a bunch of times, and she's a messaging expert. She was talking about Alligator Alcatraz. And what's so disgusting about this is we've seen the Trump regime actually tweeting out like signs and advertisements for it and touting what is really an internment camp that has cropped up. Yeah. We saw videos of it being of flooding and the conditions in there is just mind-boggling that in 2025 here in America that's happening. It's the next step. It's what would happen in any fascist authoritarian takeover when you're rounding people up. But I want to read to you what Anat posted about how we should be talking about it, because it's really smart. Great. And I want people, when they're talking about this, not to get caught up in the Trump regime's talking points. So this is from Anat. Right. There's a reason this criminal regime of the bullies for the billionaires is calling their latest gulag Alligator Alcatraz. Alcatraz reinforces the idea that folks abducted and disappeared to it are criminals. It conjures up the American obsession with mafia movies, making the sequesterer of our neighbors a cool dictator pastime. Adding alligator to it helps obscure the idea that human beings, dads and moms, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors, will be tortured there. When MAGA coins a new phrase, it is never accidental, nor should our use of it be. This is a concentration or internment camp. Florida fascism facility handily lends itself to another all-purposeful F. So that's what she's suggesting we call it, the Florida fascism facility. And I also am a big fan of alliteration in anything we do. So, so that's what I want our listeners to really lean into. Don't call it Alligator Alcatraz for those reasons. And she's right on the money.
Yeah, I think that's right. Florida fascism facility. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but I think it is. I mean, I also agree. Like the alliteration is good, and it is really important to continue to point out that this is a concentration camp. I mean, frankly, I'm on board with just calling it a concentration camp because that's what it is. And by the way, let's not forget to mention that every ICE detention center is horrific. Like the conditions in them, we've been hearing over and over from people who have family members who are in like the Adelanto, which is a local-ish, a couple hours outside of Los Angeles. People are sleeping on concrete floors. There's not enough room for everybody. It's cold. The food is infrequent and not enough. There's abuse. It's, these are not places that like anybody should be staying, but these are non-criminals who have been swept off the street while they're working. So I think we could safely call all of these detention, facilities, concentration camps, and also just to always remember how much money is being made off of this mass detention. That the people who run these facilities donated heavily to Trump, and now they are heavily reaping the profits. It's always about the money. And it's disgusting if you think of it that way, that this is all about just incarcerating human beings so that money can be made. It's a very
it's so
horrifying
disgusting.
state of affairs.
Like when you see some videos that have come out, and that like these brown shirts, ICE agents, who are masked and unmarked, are filling quotas and are literally like, they get paid by the body that they bring in. it's so horrific. They're literally fishing, hunting for human beings, you know, and it's, I want everyone, like, you know, I sometimes try to put a spin on things. I'm a glasses half full guy. This is going to get way worse before it gets better. What's happening in LA right now is a test case for the rest of the country. And with this increase in funding, and we'll talk about MacArthur Park. I'm actually going to talk about it in my Reasons for Hope, believe it or not. But we're going to start seeing that more and more.
Yeah. And I will just say, for those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, like, we're seeing incredible solidarity in this city, like beyond belief.
That's why it's going
Signal
in my
chats,
Reason for Hope. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it when we get there. But we're going to really encourage you to create that in your city as well when it happens. And it's not if, it's when.
Yep.
But we'll get to that later. First, let's talk about how Republicans want to send you to work in the field, Steve, because this one, okay, can I start this? I'm going to talk about this. See, I saw this footage yesterday morning. If you all didn't see this by any chance, Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture under Donald Trump, who's gone back and forth, depending on who's pulling her strings at any given time, about the mass deportation of farm workers. Coming out and saying, like, we can't run farms this way, which is obviously true. And then, back and forth. So Trump saying, oh, I'm going to give them an amnesty. Oh, no, I'm not going to give them an amnesty. So yesterday she comes out and says, no, absolutely no amnesty. We are going to continue the mass deportations. We are going to move to automation instead. Like, that in and of itself is just, we're going to move to automation instead, and also a 100% American-led workforce, which, with 38 million people on Medicaid who are unemployed, is that what she said? Shouldn't be a problem. That was the line. She said this
work requirements for
yeah. So there's so much wrong with this. Just starting with, as I made a video about this. Where is that automation? What automation? You have robots who can pick crops? Like, where are they?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for those? Do the farmers pay for those? Is that, like, just out of their spare change that they're going to pay? That's just going to, like, tomorrow we're going to get them in the fields, because this is about to be a huge crisis.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then on top of that, again, with this 38 million people on Medicaid who are unemployed and doing nothing, this is a huge fiction.
Yes.
That the Republican Party ginned up in order to justify cutting $1 trillion from Medicaid, but it's false. And you can look it up. It's not hard to find this information. First of all, half of the people on Medicaid are children. So unless we're thinking of child labor, that's irrelevant. Then a whole bunch are seniors, a whole bunch are people with disabilities, and then something like 64% of the rest are working. Yeah. So you've got this tiny slice of Medicaid recipients.
And if they're not working because they're sick. Because
they're caring for someone who's sick, or they're in school. Yeah.
So let's take those sick people and put them in the fields.
Yeah, it's
so
preposterous. And the thing that's important to underscore, I've had people writing me saying, are they going to make me work in the fields? Like, I'm 65 years old and I have a disability. No, the thing is that's really scary is that they have no plan for who's going to work in the fields. They're not going to get people on Medicaid to work in the fields. No American is going to go work for $7 an hour or $10 an hour under brutal conditions to pick crops, which, by the way, is a skilled position. You can't just go in there and do it. It's actually hard to do.
Yeah.
There's no plan. There's no plan to replace these people. They can't think it through because racism is the entire basis of their policymaking. So this is the thing that's so frightening, is that there's no plan. We're just going to have nobody working in the field soon.
Yeah.
And this is why you can't make policy with racism as your guiding star, because it's illogical. So that's all I have to say. It's insane.
No, it's
total insanity.
It's a great breakdown. I won't add too much to it because you said it all. But we're already seeing economic impact from what's been happening, and the lack of workers. It's already, showing, workers who are afraid to go out and show up for work. So those jobs aren't being done. And this is a crazy pivot from the previous crazy statement that we would let the growers own the problem with the people working for them, essentially saying that they would control and be responsible for these workers, which sounds a lot like slavery. It's pretty much like what slavery is, or at least indentured servitude. So I will say, on my flight back from DC on Saturday, I watched the Cesar Chavez movie, which I hadn't seen, with Michael Pena as Cesar Chavez. And I recommend it. It's incredibly inspiring. And a reminder in this time that we're all struggling against, this oppression, this, authoritarian fascism, that there really is no group of people more vulnerable with less resources than farm workers, right? Who live in extreme poverty, and have the least political capital, the least to work with. So watching what Cesar Chavez and the farm workers did over 5 years, they were on strike for 5 years, and also using the power of boycotts and public opinion, getting their plight out to the public, they were able to win. They were able to secure better conditions in their workplace and better wages, and bring that to the public view. So that was incredibly inspiring, because that's what we need to do with everything we do right now is public opinion. And so that's it was 100%. It was a good movie. Check it out. I know lots of people know about Cesar Chavez, but there was a lot of stuff that I had forgotten about in this telling of his story.
That sounds good. I watched an action film when I flew, and I'm not going to say which one it was, but it wasn't very good. So I wish I'd had that as an option.
I want to know what you watched.
I feel bad. It was called the Amateur or whatever. It was that one about the guy who's like the computer geek at the CIA, but then his wife gets killed, and it wasn't that good. I'm sorry. I like that actor a lot, but it wasn't. It wasn't my favorite. It's fun. It's a good. It's a good plane movie, but it wasn't. I did not learn about union organizing or farm workers on it. So I learned about how to make bombs and blow up glass swimming pools, but less useful.
Look,
for
mostly when I talk
about
what I watch on this show, it's like stupid reality TV. So
No, I'm not agreeing with you. I don't mean like I'm agreeing with you, but yes, that is often what everybody in America is watching. So. Anyway, so
let's talk about a couple of things coming up that I want people to get into action about before we go into our reasons for hope. One, we have another mass action coming up on July 17th. Good Trouble Lives On in the spirit of John Lewis. There's going to be organizing opportunities, and then another mass rally and march that's nationwide with events all over the place. The website is goodtroubleliveson.org. Again, we need to show up in the streets. We need to make sure that we are seen, that the press picks up on it. So hard to get, press about our peaceful and strong protests, but we need to keep doing that. So sign up, find an event. The second thing that I'll say, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds about this, but if you've been holding off on donating to any of these campaigns, now is actually a really, really good and important time to do it. Because in the wake of this bill getting passed and how, unpopular it is, even with Republican voters, a lot of Republican candidates are thinking right now, this is when they make their decision about whether they're going to get in the race and challenge our vulnerable incumbents, our frontline Democrats. And when they see that we are behind them, that we are strong, that we are organized, and the best way they see that is in the numbers, how much money that these candidates have raised, and they know that, they're heading into a midterm where the winds are really against them and public sentiment's against Republicans for all of these reasons. They're even underwater on immigration. It's going to discourage them. It's going to discourage strong candidates from running against our vulnerable Democrats. So now is a really good time to get involved in those campaigns. So I'm going to encourage people to do that. Of course, we have our Blue Wave California Victory Fund. I'll have a link to the show on the show notes for that one. But any of these campaigns that that resonate with you, now is a good time to give them whatever you can.
Yeah, 100%. 100% endorse that.
All right. So what's your reason for hope this week, Jess?
Oh, I'm going to tell you, you're going to love this. Okay, and I'm hoping against hope that maybe somebody listening is connected to this. It's a long shot, but
okay.
So I dropped MJ off at camp, right? Drove from Boston. We flew into Boston, drove to Maine, up north in Maine, dropped them off, and then I'm driving back to Boston the same day for my flight. So it's like whoa, a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And I'm driving down Route 1 in Maine, which is the big thoroughfare running down Maine, and I'm tired and it's been a long day. And suddenly I look up on Route 1 and there's an overpass, and on the overpass is huge signs saying "No Kings in America," and then a bunch of people standing there with flags, waving and dancing. It's just a random overpass in a random part of Maine. And I was talking to my husband on the phone, but I was like, oh my God. And I started honking at them.
Yeah.
It made me so happy.
Yeah.
I love seeing that people are just out there doing this. And again, like if you want to do something like this, look up the Visibility Brigade. They've got a how-to kit, Visibility Brigade. They're online. We'll put the website in our show notes, but this stuff is really important to show people that you're out there and that you too are upset. It's hugely impactful and so powerful. And if you are part of that group, please let us know. And shout out. That was great. And really made my day to see people
Awesome.
Up there doing that in Maine.
I believe we got a call from someone in Maine who was doing those overpass things. I don't know if it was the same area, but it might have been one of our listeners.
I wonder. I hope so. Boy, that was so fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope that was, so whoever that was, thank you for doing it. It was really great. And Steve, what's your reason for hope this week?
Yeah, perfect segue. It's about people showing up, and specifically, I know we touched on MacArthur Park. For those who don't know, on Monday, in this ridiculous show of force that was purely performative with no objective other than to take some pictures and look scary. We know this because there was actually leaked docs from their mission that talked about all the parameters for the mission. We had armored vehicles and mounted soldiers on horseback with armor on the horses, traipsing through soccer fields.
Armor on the horses.
Yeah,
sorry, it's ridiculous.
It was like they were heading into this massive battle. There was so many of them going through MacArthur Park. This was on a day when kids were there for summer camp. And walking across this soccer field, they had their own photographers. They had their own, people there for this moment. It was scary. I mean, that kind of show of force we don't see here in America. It is, patently un-American, and it was scary. Yeah. And what we saw in response from the people who were living in around MacArthur Park and who heard about this and came out to meet them was total, fearless defiance. Just getting in their way, yelling at them, telling them to leave. Our mayor showed up and said, this is unacceptable. You need to leave right now. They left. They got their fucking photo op. They got out of there. And, this city, I have to say that just makes me want to dig my heels in more. LA is the antithesis of everything that fascism stands for. People come to LA from all over the world because it is, you talk about a melting pot. It's a place where diversity isn't just accepted, it is celebrated, it is incorporated, it's woven into the fabric of our city. And you think about like the 60s in LA and the hippie movement and free love and acceptance. And this is where people could go and let their freak flag fly and be celebrated for it. And, there's no doubt why Trump has decided that LA is going to be the first city that he tries to intimidate. But he's not going to intimidate us because we are resilient, we are dug in, and I'm really proud to live in Los Angeles, and I'm proud of how my fellow Angelinos responded to this ridiculous show of force.
Yeah, I am too. And I'll tell you, I mean, first of all, the really ironic thing is that we knew that they were going to be hitting MacArthur Park like 3 days in advance. I'm on a Signal chat where they were like, they're going to be hitting MacArthur Park. Everybody knew they were coming. So it's so stupid and wasteful. I mean, if you just care about waste, and by the way, they had Fox News people embedded with them, like, oh my God. So there was nobody for them to catch. And MacArthur Park has been empty for like a month now because nobody's coming out. So yeah, huge, just embarrassing photography opportunity. But people in LA are throwing down. My friends and I are about to, we're gathering clothing and supplies, toiletries and things to bring to households of people who can't go out. But it's everybody is doing that though. That's the thing. It's like, where I've got people texting me left and right. How do I deliver things? How do I give money? How do I, LA Voice, the organization, is doing amazing work. They've got a fund that you can donate to. This city is closing ranks and caring for our neighbors, and it is a beautiful thing to see.
It is.
There is nowhere in the fucking world I would rather be than Los Angeles right now. I've never been so proud of my city. And yeah, they are trying to bury us, and we are becoming seeds. Literally, like the saying goes, everybody is just, it's a beautiful thing. Fuck ICE is literally like the new motto of Los Angeles. Yeah. It should be on our flag.
I like it. We'll have the LA Voice link in our show notes also if you want to support our community here. All right, so that's a lot. So another Californian who is working on our behalf. I'm excited for people to hear this interview with Congressman Ro Khanna. Congressman Ro Khanna represents California's 17th Congressional District, located in the heart of Silicon Valley. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I want to get right to it because you've got some exciting events coming up on July 19th. You are hosting a town hall in Nancy Mace's South Carolina district, your colleague on the other side of the aisle, if I can call her a colleague, called Benefits Over Billionaires. You've been touring the country, giving town halls in Republican districts, asking folks what matters to them, helping Democrats rally support ahead of the midterm. What are you hearing from voters in those red and purple states, and especially now that this big bullshit bill has passed?
Well, it's just a shame of what they've done. And I'm embarrassed for the country. I mean, they are taking from working class folks their health care, taking away food assistance, and giving tax breaks to multimillionaires. It averages $1 million for people in the 0.1%. If you're a billionaire in Silicon Valley, in my district, you're going to get millions of dollars in tax breaks.
Yeah.
But at the cost of $1 trillion of Medicaid cuts. I mean, it's just anger is what I'm hearing.
So you mentioned your constituents in Silicon Valley, where a lot of your wealthier constituents are going to be seeing the benefit from the new budget law right away. By design, they're going to get their prize right away. By contrast, working class folks, they will be feeling some repercussions soon, but the major cuts to Medicaid are deferred until after the midterm, also by design. So when you do your town hall and when we reach out to voters right now, how can we best make them understand the implications of this law before it really hits them where it hurts, before it goes into full effect?
Well, first of all, a lot of premiums are going to go up because they took away the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So if
Yeah.
you're getting your health care on the exchange, you're going to have increased health care costs 75 to 100%. Second, hospitals are already going to start adjusting for these cuts. They see the cuts coming down the line. That means they may be closing services, they may be reducing services, and they're also going to increase everyone's premiums because they now know that they can't rely on Medicaid, so they're going to have to charge those of us who have private insurance more. So this is going to mean a rate hike for people's healthcare premiums. It's going to mean that people already start to lose some of their health insurance and their benefits. And look, we don't have to make the case. We're going to see this, unfortunately, in communities. What the Democrats need to do is highlight those stories, highlight the hospitals that are being impacted, the services that are being impacted.
Yeah. You're a proponent for single payer, for Medicare for all. And, my glass half full personality looks at the long arc of what's happening right now and where our healthcare is being ripped away from millions. When we get through this, I believe we will get through this, and we get power back. We're going to have to rebuild our healthcare system. Do you think there will then be political will to get something like single payer done?
I do. I think that if ever there's going to be a time, it's now. People see that they are getting their health care taken away. They see that they're getting affordable care premiums taken away. They see that premiums are going up. And we know this answer. The answer is expand Medicare. Medicare is it's cheaper for the country. It's going to help save small businesses money. It's going to make sure everyone is covered. The payment that people will have to Medicare is far less than the payment they have to private insurance. And by the way, if you really love your supplemental insurance, you can keep that on Medicare. People have supplemental insurance. So let's move it to 60, 55, 50, 45 and get everyone covered on Medicare. I've been a proponent with Bernie Sanders for Medicare for all for many, many years.
Yeah, it just makes sense, and obviously our healthcare system is completely upside down and backwards, rewarding enormous profit to healthcare companies for sick people and not incentivizing keeping people healthy and preventative medicine and stuff like that. So I'm with you. I'm a big proponent here in California of CalCare as well. I want to switch gears a little bit because you have really embraced alternative media. Your colleagues are starting to catch up with you now, thankfully. But you've also been a outspoken proponent of stopping the TikTok ban. Democrats are just woefully underinvested in this alternative media space. To give podcast as an example of the top 400 political podcasts, 300 of those are right-wing shows. So can you talk about the power that online activists have and over the Trump regime, pushing back on all of this and what we can do moving forward better?
Well, Steve, you've been incredible. I appreciate what you're doing. I think
I wasn't fishing for that, but I'll take it. Thank you.
I think we have to on the left build a community. It can't just be, okay, let's go on Steve's show or let's get the message out. What the right has done is built a community. They have hundreds of online commentators, creators, podcast folks, and they all come together and they say, let's drive this theme, let's drive this message, let's drive this story. And we haven't done that. We're very fragmented. But I think the reality is most people now consume their news not just reading the New York Times, not watching Face the Nation. They consume their news by what comes across their Instagram feeds, what comes across their TikTok feeds, what comes across their Facebook feeds. And we need to be out there on creating content. We have to be on multiple platforms and build a community to get our facts out because the facts are on our side.
Yeah, I agree. And, there's a lot of hand wringing about like, who's the next Joe Rogan? We need our Joe Rogan. And sure, it would be great to have, some big accounts like that, big, influence like that. But really, we need more. We need more for the
Absolutely.
algorithm. Yeah. Whenever anyone says, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting up a podcast or doing a YouTube, whatever," it's like, do it, get it on there, because we just need to flood that algorithm with, I don't know, facts, the truth, people who have compassion and are protecting each other, looking after each other.
And the great thing is, you could be a new podcast person and have a new podcast and maybe have 500 followers, and you could do something that strikes a nerve and go viral, right? I mean, I've seen people with 50 followers or 100 followers, and they have millions of views. And so that's the exciting things for folks, is don't get discouraged. You don't have to start out with million followers, 100,000 followers. You can start out, you put the content, and you never know what's going to hit a nerve. And we have to have more content on our side.
Absolutely. Well, I'll do something at the end of this interview to make it go viral. We'll figure out. All
right.
No, I'm kidding. All right. I want to talk about our propensity for war in this country. And what's been happening. I say that tongue in cheek. It's not funny at all. But, you introduced a measure with Representative Thomas Massie that would have forced Trump to get approval from Congress to enter Israel's conflict with Iran. Obviously, the bombing strikes happened before Congress could weigh in. But this was a bipartisan proposal. What is the status of this measure now for future actions?
Well, we need to be the party against these wars. I mean, the American people are sick of us spending billions of dollars, sending more troops to the Middle East, sending more of our bombs and missiles. And for what? Iran still has nuclear fuel. It can make 10 nuclear bombs, but we've created a generation of hate against Americans, and we've now invested more of our resources there. So we're hoping to get a vote on Thomas Massie and my war powers resolution, because we need to make it clear that the president shouldn't strike again or send more of our troops into a conflict if without Congress. And by the way, that's not in America's interest. That now Netanyahu, every time he comes, he's pressing, let us do more, let us take out the Iranian regime. They want a regime change. And
nominating Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize now, too.
Yeah. He's hoping that he can flatter Trump with a Nobel Peace Prize, but it'll get us into another Middle East war there. And it's cost us trillions of dollars. It's money that could have been put in jobs here, could have been used to have childcare $10 a day, Medicare for all. And it just makes people angry.
Thomas Massie co-authoring it with you. Are there other Republicans you think that would sign on? Obviously, Mike Johnson is probably not, I'd be surprised if he even lets it see the light of day. But is there any hope for that?
Well, I think you have some hope with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Freedom Caucus. But let's see on Johnson. I mean, if the war had continued, or if it re-escalates, I think he will. Trump heard his base. He heard the Tucker Carlsons, Marjorie Taylor Greenes, and he stopped. And so now there may not be the appetite, but we have it there if there is ever an escalation to get a vote and to prevent Trump from doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rep. Al Green, your colleague, introduced articles of impeachment over Trump's bombing of Iran. Despite your own belief that Congress should have approval over acts of war, you did vote alongside 177 other Democrats to table this. Why did you vote against that?
Well, I think if we go down the line of unconstitutional actions for war, you probably could impeach most modern presidents. And I say that with having a lot of admiration. There are a lot of other grounds for impeaching Trump, the cryptocurrency, the corruption. But, Libya was an unconstitutional war. The strikes on the Houthi ships were unconstitutional. And so I just didn't think that was the ground to have impeachment. There are a lot of other corruption charges that we can bring. But first, we've got to win the House.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm here in Los Angeles. I was just in DC, by the way, so I hope your AC is working well because it's brutal there. But
It is.
but it's we're just living through a very dark and scary time right now. And here in LA, just as we're recording this, yesterday, Monday, the Trump regime sent troops marching through MacArthur Park in a show of just force and intimidation. In Florida, they've propped up and are actually promoting modern day internment camps because this budget bill that just passed increases the ICE budget by many fold, more than the Marines, more than most countries' entire police force. These actions are just the beginning. It's going to get much worse. You have a lot of context around these fights. You have family history. Your grandfather actually spent a number of years in jail and was active in Gandhi's independence movement. So I just wonder, when you're looking at this holistically, what lessons from history do you apply in our work now? And how can we best prepare for, what's yet to come? Because it's a lot of people, including myself, are pretty scared.
Well, I'm so proud of my grandfather. He spent years in jail as part of Gandhi's independence movement. I mean, he was jailed for writing about the human rights of people in India and saying that you shouldn't have colonialism. And he encouraged people not to cooperate with the British oppressive government. And for that, he went to jail multiple times and stood for human rights. But I think the lesson for people like him is that people have had it much worse. The odds have been much more stacked against them, that we have the opportunity for building a multiracial democracy here. We have been the beneficiaries of the struggles of people like my grandfather, people in civil rights, people who fought in World War II. And that we need to hold firm to our belief in this country, which is that this is a kind country deep down. It's a decent country. It's a country that believes in the Constitution, that those who are demonizing and trying to divide us are actually the un-American interlopers, and that we have something far more profound to say about the American experience, and that we need to show our sense of courage, which people are. They're marching, they're out there, they're showing up to town halls. And I have no doubt that will prevail, that will prevail over the forces of division and darkness.
I agree. As just surreal as it was watching the military with horses going through a soccer field while, young kids were at summer camp there. It was great watching the community, yelling at them to get out, and as they had to retreat and standing up for each other. I agree. As I said, I have hope for the future. You mentioned the House of Representatives and getting back power in the midterms. Super important. We only need 3 more seats to win back the House, and I think we can do it. When that happens, what's on your hit list? What are the first things that you want to do when we have the majority back to push back against the Trump regime?
We need to rebuild our agencies. I mean, they have decimated EPA, NIH, with the cancer research, the FDA, the State Department, USAID. And so making it impossible for the president to fire people or reassign people without just cause, having funding to rebuild these agencies. We need to make sure that we are giving people a raise in this country, the child care $10 a day, expanding Medicare, but as a check to Donald Trump so that he can't continue to just gut the federal government, can't continue to have arbitrary tariffs that are hurting working class Americans, and that we have subpoena power so that we can stop the basic destruction of the federal government, which is what Stephen Miller, it's not even Donald Trump, it's Stephen Miller and Russ Boyd, what they're trying to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to finish up with the one question that we ask everybody on the show.
This one will go viral?
This one will go viral. What? No. I hope it goes viral because it's a sincere question that we ask everyone. What's giving you the most hope right now?
The American people being out there. I mean, people taking a risk and showing up to stand in solidarity with immigrants. The fact that folks are showing up at town halls knowing that they'll be harassed. that they're taking a weekend to be on a march saying that in this country we have a democracy, that they are speaking out, even knowing that they could be targeted or harassed. I am inspired by ordinary Americans. You know, while the fancy partners at law firms sometimes didn't show courage, it's the ordinary Americans who did. And angry but concerned and enraged citizens are going to bring this country back. I believe that with all my heart.
Well, thank you for that. I feel that too, and I so appreciate your work. Representative Khanna, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. An honor to be on.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget that all of the links to our actions are in the show notes, so don't just listen, click those notes and take action. Please subscribe and rate our show on Apple, YouTube, or wherever you are listening, and share our show with your friends and family. Make sure that they are taking action to help us win as well. If you're able to support our show on Substack, we'd be very grateful for that, and you'll get an ad-free version of our show. We will be back next week with some more Practivist Pod, so until then, don't forget, hope is an action. Hold on.